Hello everybody, today I'm just going to color in some pages so you can see the products that I use and just to see how I make a color in a page. I'll do a video on how to draw a page later on. Basically at this point I've used a pencil to kind of sketch things in. I've used a Pilot multi-ball to start drawing things in. For very fine lines, I use a Pilot High-Tech C, and then I also use a Pentel brush pen. Anyway, it has a brush tip on it, and they're all in black and they're all permanent ink. And then I just will erase it after I've got it drawn in. So today I'm going to use a couple different products. I also have a classic set that I will use. Sorry, the paints are... And then I have this watercolor pencil set that someone gave me. And it's just a set of 36 watercolor pencils by Fantasia. I've never heard of the brand, but I've used them a couple times in my book and they work really well, so I'll be using those today. And I'm also going to use these metallic sparkle colors that my daughter gave me for Christmas, and they're really cool. I don't use them with water, I just kind of smear them on the page. So I'm going to start with these because they need to dry for a little bit before I move on. They're basically an oil-based, the oil-based watercolor marker, or there's another brand, I can't remember the name, but they're like watercolor crayons. They look kind of like glue sticks, and I do not have any of those, so I can't compare the two. But they go on really smooth and they sparkle. I don't know if you can tell if they sparkle. But what I like to do is choose 2 or 3 colors for a section, and then I blend them together with my finger, and it's kind of a fun... They stay creamy for, oh, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes, and then you're just able to blend them together like that. Now there is writing on this page, so it is, you can kind of see it coming through. You won't notice it as much once you write on in this area. So isn't that a pretty effect there? So since you're going to be writing on top, you want to probably keep to the lighter colors, but you know, it's up to you. Try the darker colors if you have a white pen to go over the top or something. Basically they work kind of like oil pastels, but they dry really well, and I know oil pastels dry too, but they don't dry as quickly, I don't think. And it adds a nice touch of shimmer to your page, which is kind of fun. And then I just go back over it with one of my fingers to blend the color in. And then you get this really pretty, not sure if that shows, but there's a little sparkle to the page. You can use it for any area. I don't like to do the whole page with it, so I'll use like the two little pop areas there, and on this side I'll use it over here. You know, if you love the look, you could do the whole page. I just didn't. You don't have to use it just in a stripe way. You could do the edge of your art or frame that you're doing, and then color in a color on the inside. Just keep this to the purples. There's quite a bit of color in these. They once you run out of the tip, you just turn it, and there's quite a bit in there. They should make these refillable, but they do not. I don't think they do. So hopefully I can roll that back up. So there's quite a bit of color. Lasts you a long time. I think my daughter got these at Dick Blick. They were a Christmas present because she knows I like glittery, sparkly things. And you can see, you can blend these with water too, but I have much more success with my finger, I think. I probably let that sit a little too long. So they're blendable for the first, you know, minute or two maybe. I'm going to get the darker color out and do that again. So even the color is so dark here, it's not that dark on the page. That's going to blend better. So they dry pretty fast. So if you want to blend with your finger, blend right away. With the Fauxbonichi, with the Tomoe River paper, you're going to have to be careful and hold your edges because it's so thin that you can't just reach up there and pull it down like you would with art, like heavy watercolor paper or something like that in a journal. You're actually going to have to hold the page down when you're rough with it. Alright, so those are Sparkle Watercolor Gel Crayons. I don't know if they make them without sparkle, but I'll look into that. And they dry pretty fast. I wouldn't write on them yet, so I am going to start using different items, like I'm going to do the watercolor pencils. But first, actually, I'm going to talk to you about what not to use. And I love these Tombow brush pens, and I use them in on other projects and on other paper, but on this paper, the Tomoe River paper, they bleed through. And you can use them as, if you've already colored the front page of the paper and the back, you can use them to write over the top. But if any water comes in contact with either the top or the back, it will bleed right through. And the same goes for these Zig Clean Color watercolor brushes. I love both of these. I have nothing bad to say about them. I just want you to know that they bleed through the Tomoe River paper. So these are so now I'm going to use the Fantasia Artist Premium Watercolor Pencils. And I think, oops, let me set them up here. I think I'm going to stay in kind of the same pastel-y color scheme. So since I have like pink here and purple here, actually since I have pink here, I'm going to go ahead and put pink here. I try to like balance color when I do a journal page. I use them pretty solidly but quickly. Hope that makes sense. It's not perfectly colored on there, but it's blended a little bit. So with the Tomoe River paper, when you use water on it, it actually kind of texturizes the area. And this is just a water brush. And I'm just going to go over the entire area here. And it smooths out the color, but it also adds kind of a watercolor texture to it too, if you notice. And as it dries, it'll get even more so. So I'm going to let that dry. Down here, I think I'll actually use watercolor paints. I think I'll do pencil these areas here. I'll go with a blue and a purple. You don't have to be real, you can be quick about it. You don't have to be real fussy about edges and stuff because the water will blend out to the edge. When I'm blending two colors together, I do kind of put a feathery edge or a feathery area so that when I do the watercolor, the next color, I overlap it. That's mainly on the color pencils that I do that because they tend not to blend as easy as watercolor paints do when you blend them together. Now the one thing about these color pencils that I noticed, they're not as bright and pigmented as my other watercolor pencils. My other watercolor pencils, when you add water to them, they get a lot brighter, and these tend to stay the same color or a little lighter. So I think they're not as pigmented, which can be good because I tend to I really love bright colors, so this kind of subdues my usual look to kind of a pastel-y. Because I have a lot of green in the leaves, I don't do a lot of green in the background as a background color, but I do like teal, so I'm going to do a teal. Just going to show you how messy you can be there. It's pretty messy. And I'm going to go with another blue. Kind of balances that. So for the rest of this, I'm just going to get my watercolors out, and I'll quicken the video, and you can listen. I'll put music on or something so you don't have to watch me do every little detail. So the reason I'm kind of jumping around on what I use is because I want you to see that you don't have to have just watercolors. If you prefer watercolor pencils, if you prefer something else, you can do that. This is the classic set of Prima Watercolors. I think on this side I'm going to stick to blues and purples, and on this side I'm just going to do all colors. You notice that there is some texturing now in that pencil, so if you don't think you can get texturing with a watercolor pencil, you can. You just have to use a little bit more water on it. I'm going to do this side first, so I'm going to give myself room to work here. I tend to always start in the middle, and with my bright color flowers I start with yellow because a lot of flowers have yellow centers, and then I just work my way out. And sometimes I go with like rainbow colored flowers, and sometimes I go with this color scheme. On this side here I'm going to go with like a rainbow look. And I should say that once you put a color in, you skip to the next color. So I know I'm going to have orange there, and so I'm going to skip to pink on the next, like, so they don't touch, because if the watercolor touched at this point, it would bleed. So you're going to have to let that dry and work on something else. Which bleeding works in some cases, but on these type of flowers, probably not so much. I'm going to go ahead and do the corner over here. And actually, usually I put a piece of paper between layers, so I'm going to grab a so that when I'm doing a corner, I lay a piece of paper down, and then I can get the corner without making a mess on the next page. When I'm painting this, I'm careful not to bring that red, the color behind it, into the orange very far, and I'm working wet. So like this yellow will come up to the orange, and then I'll blend it down the whole way. And back here I'm cleaning off my brush with a paper towel, but now I should have blended this a little better. I'm going to go back in and blend that. So I'm going to make a light green using just a little bit of their traditional green and some of their yellow that's in this set. And I'm going to go back in and do a quick paint the middle of the leaf with the light yellow color. I mean light green color. And I have some bleeding happening with the black paint pen I use. So I don't know which pen it was. Usually I draw it right before I paint it, and I don't know which pen is bleeding now, so I'm gonna have to go back and figure out which one it was. And now I'm just gonna take the darker green that's actually in the palette and go along the edge, and it's gonna look really rough right away because I'm gonna go back in and blend it, but I'm just doing a rough outline. And actually that leaf I'm gonna make it all dark to go in the background. So whenever you have a leaf or something in the really background, you just make it the dark green, the darkest green color. Not that these flowers look realistic, but it gives them kind of a feel of being a little bit more realistic. But it's really bleeding. Okay, so I'm going to clean off my brush, and I'm going to come back with just water and blend. I'm really disappointed that I don't know what pen that is, because I will not use it again. I'll try not to use it again on a page, because it really is picking up the black into the leaf there and makes it all dirty looking. Okay, so that's done. Usually you put the date up in this area. I'm just going to choose right now just to do to balance out that red and pink. I'm going to use that up here. I was a graphic designer for years, so when I do a page, I try to balance things out a little bit. The color, the thin, thick. There's a lot of graphic design principles that you can use. So I would really like to balance this color out, so I'm going to put purple up in this area and blue. Doesn't have to be matching, because of course this is not matching that blue, but it's close enough that it's going to look okay. I love the Prima set because it has a really awesome purple. This is the Classic Colors. It has a great purple. I think the Tropical has a good purple too, but it's just a different color. It's just a shade different. So if it's not blending real well for you, like this blended a little bit better, you can go in and just add water and drip it on there, and this will texturize the paper. Sorry, I have a hard time speaking when I'm painting. This will texturize the paper, the background, and as it dries it'll get more textured, and it'll, I'm gonna take a little bit of that purple off the edge there. It'll look better when it dries. So I'll finish the flowers, and then I have to decide if I want to do this a color. So I can go back and do the orange now that both the yellow and the pink are dry. Oh, I'm not happy with that pen. You know, I'm going to say it's the Pilot High C because I don't use that very often. Now, on watercolor paper, it's permanent. But because the Tomoe River paper has a kind of a coating on top of it, that might be making it not so permanent. So you might be smart when you use Tomoe River paper is to have a test page in the back where you can try out your colors, just to be safe. So I'm going to jump to like a red tone, and then I'll do a purple tone. Yes, if I wanted to be perfect, the red would have come before the pink, but the red is so much darker than the pink that sometimes I like to use it before the pink. It's, you know what, it's up to you what you want to use. Don't listen to me. It's your journal, your fun. So my camera died and I don't know where it left off, but I painted part of this page when it died. So if you didn't get that, I used the modeling blue and I mixed a reddish purple for these flowers here to finish off these flowers. I just took the red paint and the purple paint in the Prima palette and mixed them together to make more of a red purple hue. Actually, I'm going to use that same purpley hue for part of these flowers. It's going to look way different over here. If you plan on doing a brighter color or darker color over the top, you can go ahead and do a whole wash. Okay, we're going to do the leaves green, but I'm going to kind of dull it down a little bit so it's not so kind of an olivey. Might be a little bit too olivey. I'll put some more color, more green in it. Okay, I'm going to let those dry for a little bit. Have to decide if I'm going to do, I think I'm going to do blue up here, just because you have the 3 bounce of the blue. For the swirl, I think I'm going to go dark purple to blue on this one. I usually don't write in the swirl. Actually, maybe I'll go really dark with it. I don't usually go dark. I usually stay pretty light, so we'll try something new. I think I will add the light blue in the end, on the ends. So I have to let the flowers dry. There are a couple little flowers over here I have to fix or add color to. I think I'm just going to use that purple straight. I tend to have to hold the Tomo River paper because it gets a little light, so it kind of blows, or not blows around, but it moves around a little bit. Okay, that's going to have to dry.